Hi, I'm here today with Alicia Patrick from BHR Wellbeing. And today, what we want to talk about is getting your business culture right and how it can help on other things such as reducing your employee turnover. So, if Alicia wants to introduce herself, we can meet her.
Brilliant. Hi, I am Alisha Patrick. I am a company director. I've told everyone actually, I'm a director of culture and leadership because it's the most important thing within your well-being.
Very good. So, tell people a bit more about what business culture is. We hear it brandished around all the time now, but
Yeah,
some people, if they've got a smaller business, they haven't got that many employees, they're not necessarily something you've really focused on.
it's not something people focus on because it happens. It happens around us as we work, and unless we put in the starting blocks and the understandings to start off with, that's where it can go totally awry. So culture within your business, especially as a holistic approach, and I hate using the word holistic in business. People are so scared of that word. It's like we can dance around merry circles. We can dance around merry circles trying not to use that word. But for the well-being of the staff that work there and yourselves that run the business, you need to look at the whole and what's going on a daily basis, and just understand that there's a wonderful level of people that work within your business and around them that have an understanding and a daily approach to the way how they do things. So by just having small little key values that you put and you work to on a daily basis, you will change your whole business culture.
And that's the thing, isn't it? So, like, really, you could almost sum it up as just showing that you care. The basics of it can even be that, can't it? Of like, you know, coming on a Monday and get a cup of tea and say, "How was your weekend?
Yeah.
What's going
Oh,
on in your life?"
100%. Yeah, because effectively, we all work so that we can live, and it's not the other way around. We don't live to go to work. That's not who
Apart
we
from the
are.
odd strange person.
Really strange people. No, but yes and no. There are quite a few people that work is their biggest thing in their agenda. But you need to be appreciative of that and understand, as not you need, I don't even like the needs, it's what we want to achieve. If we look at what we want to achieve and then decide going forward how we're going to approach things, having the complete understanding that everybody is an individual and those individuals are not cogs in a machine. Everybody that is there has their own thing going on. And if you can just appreciate that thing that's going on and help them get through it, they will honestly give you so much more in return.
Yeah,
100%.
that's interesting as well, isn't it? Because I think historically a lot of people thought that people only go to work for money and to get paid. And actually,
Yeah.
it's really quite a low percentage of people to do that, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. People don't just go to work to get paid. We go for our own sense of personal satisfaction that we are putting towards the population, that we're actually giving something back. We go for culture, we go for communication and having a group of friends that everyone knows that you've got work colleagues, but these work colleagues you work with for 10, 15 years, and then all of a sudden they
But
become your
sometimes
best
you
friends.
spend more time with them than your whole family or any of your friends.
Exactly. You spend more time at work than you do at home.
Mm.
So how are they not meant to become part of your life?
Yeah,
It's
and we've all
not
worked
so.
in places, haven't we, where you don't always gel with everyone, but where you've got a particular person that you don't gel with, or you don't get on with, you rub each other up the wrong way, whatever it is, and it does have a detrimental effect on your happiness at work for the whole period that situation's going on.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I've worked with quite a few people. So I've just to add some context. So I work with a client as a corporate, but I'll work with their people individually.
Okay.
And individually, I will have conversations with them that they've never told the company because they refuse to allow the company to see them or be seen as someone that can't cope with something, which is really interesting, especially when you've got a mix of personalities and the personality mixes just don't work together. From a corporate perspective, from a company perspective, we should be looking at our personality mixes and making sure that we're not putting people in that are just going to butt heads and expecting them to work together.
Especially if you've got a small team that they've got to work closely together, it's just not going to happen.
Exactly. And there's nothing, and I mean, I bet there's hundreds of people out there that have been in a situation where you've got a really small team and a newcomer comes along and they're not the right personality fit whatsoever. So the whole thing just falls apart very rapidly. And you can almost stand there and look at it and go, oh, what happened? And it's the conversation of going, when we did the recruitment, did we do a decent onboarding process? And did we look at personality types? Because this is not working.
Yeah, it's funny actually, because when I recruit, I purposefully look closer at how well they'll fit into a team than the skills, because skills can be taught.
Exactly.
People change a bit over time and people grow up. If they're young, we've all done it ourselves. We're all not the same person we were a few years ago, or quite a few years ago. But the actual skills you can learn, but you can't. Well, you shouldn't want to anyway, massively change a person.
The thing is, there's like good old sayings that you think, oh, they're not real. Everybody changes at some stage. No, people mature.
Yeah.
People mature around the situations and the things that they're living through. And a leopard never changes its spots. It's a really good one to go, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
How did they get? And it's the conversations that they have within the offices, because everyone has that close-knit group. At the end of the day, you spend loads of time with them, but you become so entwined in each other's lives. It's the conversation about what you're having for dinner. And then this new person turns up and says, oh, no, I don't make dinner myself. And you could just see, you just see it so far, so clearly to start off with. And you just think, nah. This person's not going to sit in our office and sit right. And it's really interesting to be able to see how massively one single person can affect the whole culture of what goes on.
It's mad, isn't it? It really is. It's interesting actually, like you say the culture word again, and it's something I was thinking about as well, is companies have historical culture as well, don't they? Especially we work quite a lot in manufacturing, don't we? So a lot of people, it's always been like this, or a certain like type of person, it just keeps going. And then like we've said it before, that like you get groups of blokes and they always go, oh, women can be bitchy when they're together, and the blokes are hilarious.
Oh, you want to listen to what they're saying in the canteen?
Yeah, and you just think, God, but like then you get that, and like that's funny, isn't it? Because you're like, wow, it's not just us women, we're all like it. But when you see then, if you're in that sort of environment and you need to get a change through that's going to benefit the company and the employees, because realistically, if it benefits the company, it benefits the employees. Trying to get a change embedded that goes remotely against what the culture in existence has been means you've not just got to implement the change, but you've got to change the culture as well. And that's like a whole different ball game, isn't it, really?
It is a whole different ball game, but the first thing that you've got to do to be able to even think about changing the culture, the first thing you've got to do is analyze where the issues are. If you can't pinpoint the exact points that are wrong, then you're not going to be able to move forward. And that's where it's just sit down and really work it out, what's actually going on. And I do a lot of work with the corporates that I work with, where we will sit down and go through a massive analytical period. I say massive because it takes out a really good chunk of the whole project as a total, because you can't move forward with foundations that are wobbly. Like, you've got to put it in place to start off with. It's got to be right. Okay, we're going to do this. The reasons why we're going to do is this, and this. You all know those reasons. But to start off with, the first thing we're going to deal with is float the dead wood.
Well, that's what I was going to say as well. Often it's a bad egg or a couple of bad eggs. Sometimes there's an element of in the process that's massively affecting the culture because people hate it. It might be that it's wrong, it doesn't need to be there, it might need changing, it might be that they just don't understand why it's done. So it's not necessarily the process is wrong, but the reaction to the process is causing an issue as well.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. And you'll have, one of the things that I'm coming across now, especially with our technology that's just rapidly advancing, is you'll have people that walk into companies and just go, what you still do it that way? Like, it's really prevalent to know that. I'm going to take, for instance, online accounting.
Yeah.
So online accounting has been a thing for a very long time now in my world.
Doesn't mean you always use it.
Yeah, but I know that there's companies out there that still long form books. The fact that I was taught to long form books when I did my original business diploma, yes, I can do it. But then I just sit there and go, I can't believe you're still doing this. Why are you handwriting all of this?
When I first took over as a finance manager, they we used to have checks, even though the time had changed, you could pay by backs, but there was checks. But then they used to write the addresses on the envelopes and send them with a compliment slip, having listed all of the invoice numbers on that it related to, and some of them there were a lot, instead of just print out remittance advice. And guess what, your invoice address, your address is on there then, so it could go in a window envelope, and just like little things that's just always been done that way. And it's such a good example of the fact that a lot of businesses just go with, it's always been done this way.
Yeah, it's always been done this way, and this is the way I have to do it. And the one that I came across that I just couldn't sit with, and eventually I ended up, this is my own personal experience, this is not even within a client, I ended up secretly doing it the quicker way.
We've all been there.
What? So it was working out a detailed quote on the whole of the month's work. So working out the quote, they wanted it all, every single line of the quote of the old invoice from the old person, working out individually and writing down next to every single line. And it was the same calculation. I'm like, why are we hand typing the exact same calculation into a calculator 30 times when I could do it on a laptop?
Yeah.
So I'd secretly disappear off and I'd just pretend I was doing something else while I did this quote, and then hand write it over, what's a line for line, and then hand it back to them like I'd done the calculation myself. I was like, forget that. I could do that. But that's the
cool thing as well, isn't it? And like, that's what we're saying about culture, that you go in as a new person, you've got new ideas, and they go, oh no, it's always been done like this. And it's very difficult for that new person and for everyone that's already there, because the new person's coming in thinking that they're taken on and they want to show themselves to be useful and prove themselves, and then you're not allowed to do anything, because if you change anything, that's going to upset the people already there. But like, change has to happen. That's the only thing that's certain, is that change happens in life.
So that, for me, it delves a little bit deeper then, because it's not just about the new person or the possible changes that could happen or the changes in culture. It's about the trust. Because you interviewed, you decide that you trust them as a company. That's why you're going to go and work for them. They decide that you're going to trust them to do that job. So straight away you've got, right, I trust you, here's a job, let's do it. But then you remove that trust immediately and say, no, I don't trust you to do that job. You are to do it
the job that I hired you for.
So that makes no logical sense whatsoever. If you're going to employ someone to do a job because you need them to do a job, let them do the job.
Well, it's just so demotivating straight away, isn't it? And when's the best time to harness their motivation than like at the start when they've got some, before you've killed it with your processes, use it and it will help everybody.
It is really, it beggars belief to me, because there's no logic to it, and I can't deal with it when there's no logic. I just sit
and that's
there and
what you do, isn't it? When you you go into companies, and this is what you do for people, isn't it? To help them, because it doesn't come naturally to everybody.
No, it
doesn't. A lot of people are scared of change. So if you're scared of change, then you're trying to implement changes.
It's really interesting, because a lot of people will ignore the fact that things aren't done to the best. And that's an interesting one, because it's not necessarily something that we're consciously doing to ignore someone. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we've got other stuff to deal with. So if we've got other stuff to deal with, we're not looking at what's going on and how much productivity could move if the newest ways of doing things were implemented. We're so stuck on the fear of having that massive gap of change, and it's that like kind of pit of despair, isn't it? It's like, something new, what do I do? I'm going to call into a ball.
Like people get wrapped in the day-to-day of coping as well, especially this last year, of coping and just getting by, and of course you just can't do that forever. Not and be happy.
You can't, especially as if you think about, let's just think about really big names here. Think about the ones that have done really well on changing everything they do on a regular basis, and the ones that have never changed anything and how they've disappeared. So when I was a kid, Woolworths was massive. We went to Woolworths every Saturday for the pick and mix. I'll tell you now, it was for the pick and mix. I didn't care about anything else.
Other stuff, you've got no idea what it was. It was all for the pick and mix.
Well, they did everything, didn't they? They did. I mean, they did lamps and like homeware stuff, and then they did DVDs.
It was all about your school stuff, wasn't it?
They did absolutely everything. So for me, I know we used to go to get the pick and mix. Well, I went for the pick and mix. I don't know what anyone else was going for.
Your mum was probably after other stuff. You were there for the pick and mix.
I was there for the pick and mix. But Woolworths is gone. The reason why it's gone, because they didn't change. They didn't keep up to date. They didn't keep up to date with what people were expecting of them. I mean, towards the end of it, it was like, oh, there's a Woolworths there. It's going to be a drab old store with really awful tiled floor. I distinctly remember the mottled grey flooring.
Back to the one in Hinckley. Yeah.
It was just, towards the end, it was awful. You didn't want to be in there. No one wanted to be in there because it gave us nothing new to look forward to.
Yeah.
Then you look at other department stores that have just flown through the roof, and how they've built something that people want to go and do. They've built a shopping experience that people wanted to be at.
Is the word, isn't it? It isn't about buying clothes or whatever you're buying. It's the experience. I mean, wandering around John Lewis is an enjoyable thing.
Definitely. I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Selfridges, Birmingham, you could spend, I don't know, a couple of hours lost in there.
The smell of the donuts helps.
Yeah, quite literally, a few hours completely lost in there, and the fact that they're giving away free food all over the place means you're going to stay.
Crispy crepes floating along the conveyor.
Exactly. It's brilliant because it gives you that massive sense of difference. But then so I'm just comparing the Woolworths, and I'm going to use the newest department store that we've had in the last 20 years. And what's happened is Amazon. I mean, seriously, they used to do CDs. They did A to Z. That's what the Amazon logo says. It says A to Z with a little thick, right? That's what they did. They did CDs, books, and DVDs. Yeah. So when I was 15, they did CDs, books, and DVDs, and that was it. Now they do absolutely everything. And what's their company value?
You can't buy on Amazon now, is there?
I think there are a few kind of underground things that you're not allowed to get on Amazon, but generally you can get anything you want off Amazon. Not only that, you could possibly find the company you want to get it off. Like this, but the difference in the change, they're so adept at changing. straight away they change. This thing that we're going through right now, and I'm not going to say the C word.
Not the C word, don't say the C
Not
word.
going to say it, or refuse to say it.
Torture's our only C word.
They adapted so fast. They bought all brand new vehicles. Straight away, they knew that the vehicles weren't being used elsewhere. They started buying vehicles, or they started advertising for more drivers and more jobs straight away. And I mean, I'm not about to go and get a job at Amazon, but it was just prevalent that their advertising was, we've got an Amazon depot, I think, like stone's throw away from us. Yeah. So I could literally see the thing. But they knew that they were going to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger through
when you go past that, it's literally got this whole sign outside that is like the employment department.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go into anywhere else. It's just specifically not in via reception. It is just that, because they obviously do get, like, they employ a lot of people, don't they?
They employ thousands of people. This area, I honestly, I'm not too sure on the figures, but I reckon there's a good 10-15% of people in this whole area are employed by Amazon.
When they did it, they had to like put in complete separate bus routes and everything, didn't they? And like, it was crazy.
Oh, it wasn't even the bus routes. The route went down there. They had to put extra bus stops though.
Yeah, the bus stops.
They had to put extra bus stops in an island just to make sure that they could get people to and from. Why? Because they were needed.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. So you either change with the flow and go with what the demand is. It's not even what people want. It's where is the demand, and go straight with it. Or you become a Woolworths, and no one wants to become a Woolworths.
People do happen to focus on that, don't they? They focus on supplying what they want to supply. But, you know, if the demand's not there, if you haven't got the buyer, you know, have you even checked you're going to have the buyer after you've sorted out your supply? Because that's not going to work for you very well if no one wants to buy what you're selling. Whereas, like, they sell everything, so it's fine.
100%. I just look at the amount of different case studies that I've done about different companies, and it's really prevalent as to what's going on, and how the issues within staff and within people and mental health and well-being are having a massive effect on what that company can deal with.
I mean, it's going to be a bigger problem, isn't it, anyway? You know, even as we come out of this lockdown, for that C word that we're not talking about, that the mental health,
like sunshine, I need to just move. It's like
the mental health problems that are going to come from it aren't going to just go away when we come out of lockdown and the sun comes out at the end of the day. It is going to carry on, and companies have got to be aware of it, because there's no avoiding it now. And, you know, with that in mind, the killer question is, how high on the company agenda should well-being of their staff and themselves? You know, you can't just talk about staff well-being. It's got to be directors and owners well-being as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely everybody. It should be really high on the agenda. I know we've had kind of the Institute of Leadership and Management standards for well-being, and coaching should be part of your business diploma and things like this, and they've been an added optional extra for so long. And this is the issue now we are about to face. I mean, the NHS is ramping up for a mental health crisis. The government understands and knows that we are very much on the edge of this precipice. I can't even say that. What was that came out? Do you know what? I'm going to give up. Let's not use that one.
We're on the edge.
We're on the edge. We're literally on the edge.
Spent the last year on the edge.
That's the thing, though. We've spent so long on the edge, waiting to get to shore. We've been paddling and trying our hardest.
On Facebook the other day that this time last year, this week was our last normal week, and nobody knew. You know, to say it like that, it's awful. You know, like none of us did know, and all year we've all been thinking it'll go back to normal soon.
It's been a whole year of lockdowns, in and outs, and all the rest of it. For me, it's really upfront and apparent, because my mum's an ex-publican, so she's retired from public houses now, but the pubs have literally not opened. They've had a few days where they could have a certain amount of people in here and there, and so there's a few pubs that have opened because they've got food, but basically if they didn't have food, they weren't. So that's all of your nightclubs have completely got. This is a mass population of workers that have had to find new jobs, because there is no. They've been on furlough for a bit, and then they've been under threat of made redundancy, and then it's like, no, seriously, we don't know when
extended. Now
furloughs
again.
Seriously, there has been a massive issue with the fact that people haven't got security, and that is enormous. So, and mum makes me laugh, because mum just sits there and she's like, yep, well, I'm glad I got out of the pub industry a few years back. Like, just like that, off the cuff. And I'm like, Mum, but what about all those people that are still in it? That are.
She'll be like, I did my bit.
Yeah, like, what would you do? I don't even know what I'd do, to be honest. It is really
awful, isn't it? 'Cause people have been made redundant multiple times and things, and then when they do get a job, then they're nervous. They've done, this has happened to me before. I've had a job, I've been made redundant. It's very difficult, and I think people don't necessarily think about other people's mindset. And as an employer, essentially, it's your job.
Yeah, it is. It's your job to make sure that they are fit for work. Now that's something that we've never had to deal with before. It's never been our issue to know whether or not someone is on the way to work. We haven't had to think about how they're getting to work. We don't think about it. We just expect them to come to work. So that's really interesting. To be able to say, no, it's up to us now. It's up to us now to decide if we're doing the best for our staff, if we're doing the best for ourselves, and are we currently in a position to say we're secure, we know that we're doing the best, and we are going to be able to pay all of our employees' mortgages and rent for the next 12 months. And that's the question. That's a big question.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Really, that is what you're doing by giving people jobs. You are paying their mortgage, their rent, and it's a big responsibility. And it puts a lot of pressure on employers, because when you do start growing, I've done a video about growing on taking on employees, but it's a high pressured situation, because all of a sudden, you're not just thinking about your own mortgage and rent, you're sort of thinking about everyone else's. And if you're not, you should be. You really, it's a responsibility. You are taking this by starting a company and then building up to take on employees. You've given yourself this position of responsibility, and you need to live up to it.
It is a big responsibility, and the thing that's in the back of our minds is we accepted that responsibility as company directors. That was the point, wasn't it? That's like, we accepted that.
But people don't always think about it when they go into it, and
you don't. It's a strange one, isn't it? Because you don't necessarily 100% think that's what you've signed up for, but then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, that is what I've signed up for.
Some people kind of have that opinion. Oh, it's all right, everyone's replaceable.
No.
It's not, and it isn't like that. And the thing is, like, if you can reduce employee turnover, that will benefit you. I mean, obviously, if they fit into that dead wood category, we've got a slight problem. But really, on the whole, you're not going to have many of those.
No.
Hopefully, if you do your recruitment process right, you're not, because you're training these people up. You want them to believe in the company. If you can do that right, you then don't want them to go and leave, because you've spent time and money doing that.
If you look at the loss of skilled workers, a single person that's a skilled worker could cost a company on average £30,000 to replace.
Yeah, I can believe it.
And it's like, make sure that you're treating them right. Just make sure you've not only done the contract and tick the D's and tick the D's and top the I's.
I always
Really,
tick my D's.
Cross the I's and top the T's. Yeah, sure, whatever, which way around it is.
Yeah, do that thing.
Do that thing, but make sure you've done it straight away. You do. The worst thing that you can do to a new person, or to a long-standing person as well, the worst thing you can do to them is give them uncertainty.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you are the person that is employing them, and it's I'm talking as the director and then as an employee at the same time, because I see both sides.
Yeah.
But it's very prevalent that on a daily basis we need to be able to just understand what our responsibility is, but also appreciate that there's a reason why it's there. So making sure that they know that they've got that security for 12 months or 6 months or whatever it is. If it's a permanent contract, it's a permanent contract. Put it in writing, give it to them.
Yeah.
There was a massive thing about 0 hours contracts.
I hate 0 hours.
I'm just like, what person made the business decision to stick all their staff on 0 hour contracts?
Yeah.
They're going to run themselves into the ground.
Like you said about security, like we've said, people don't go to work just about money, but security is not money. Security is a different thing. People want that more than anything else in work, really, because you take on a mortgage, you take on rent, you take on like commitments financially based on what you've been told. And if you're doing your end of the deal and working hard, or you think you are because your training's been lacking, so you think you are and no one's told you otherwise, then...
And again, that's down to, we're going back to trust, aren't we?
Yeah.
As to whether or not we absolutely 100% trust the people that work for us to do the job that we've asked them to do, and whether we as employees trust the company to have our best interests at heart, because we're doing the job for them.
People don't, employers, some of them historically, they're in the little ivory tower, they don't think about the trust necessarily going the other way. But your employees, if they don't trust you, you're not going to get the best out of them. That's going to affect the bottom line.
Oh yeah. I will say that there are multiple case studies out there about employee well-being, and how if you appreciate and look after the staff as a whole, they do so much more than their job title.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, because you look at them and
if you get the whole team doing that.
Yeah.
Or nearly all of them.
Just imagine it, and it's really prevalent, especially when you think about there's people out there that will say, oh, I don't go to work, I just love my job. Like, it's not a chore to go and do when you love your job. And if you can get that passion into the workplace, and that is some culture change that some people are not even prepared to try. No. But if you put it in, and you start putting it in and getting the purpose into the job role, you will make so much more. It will just go through the roof. Yeah. And it's just an area people don't necessarily think about, is it? And like with what you do, you help people with this, don't you? This is what you do. This is what I do on a regular basis, but I will only do what is 100% needed. And I think that's the biggest key for me, is making sure that we do that analysis part of it to figure out what's the issues. And I like to work with, to be honest, I absolutely love working with people and companies that have got a really big change to make. If there's a big jump, if there's a really big jump, most reward out of that, I'm like, yeah, come on, let's do it. If there's a little jump, that's fine, I'll work, but you won't see the amount of you won't see the reward to it. Whereas actually, when you've got a massive thing that is niggling in the back of your mind, or just biting at you saying this isn't right and that isn't right and that isn't right, and it over and over again, and you will find it over the years, you've tried different things and different ideas and they've not quite worked. And this is where I come in then, because I we, the consultants, will make it really bespoke, and will sort out the issues that are there and work with you on the continuous process to make it last. And that's the issue, it's the continuation.
Well, 70% of changes don't actually last, do they? Because they don't implement them properly. And then what happens is it just reverts back because the old culture's too strong, and it overtakes the new change that's not been embedded. And over time, 3 months, 6 months, could be a few years, it goes back because it hasn't been done properly. And like, people just underestimate that, don't they? And sometimes having that outside influence does help, doesn't it? Because people see you as a professional, and there's no animosity, because you have, you know, in the workplace, like you say, if there's slight culture problems, then guess what, this is going to be some issues between some people, and invariably they end up being the ones that have got to work together to get this done, just by sheer bad luck.
Sheer bad luck. It's generally, people will know. The thing is, I say this all the time, just ask. Just ask, seriously, just go and ask on a random side note, across a cup of tea or at the coffee machine. How's everything doing today? Is there anything I could do for you? Are you okay? And just those conversations, that's where you'll find the diamonds. That's where you'll find what the actual issues are, where you've got an issue with one certain member of staff or one certain part of the process. You'll have someone that will just turn around to us, and I've heard it, and I think it's absolutely hilarious. These new forklift trucks you've bought are absolute, and it's just like, really? What's wrong with them? Well, they're gas, and it means that we this, that, and the other. What, I can't remember the exact, but there was something about them that meant they couldn't get through one part, so they were too wide, and I was like, well, I can't. I'm like, anyway. Straight away, the next day, he'd sorted it all out. Got them new forklift trucks on a different. He'd started sorting out the contract and getting those ones returned and getting ones that he'd actually needed. Cost him a bomb, but it would have cost him more overall by the fact that they had to get off and walk and go and pick up something instead of just taking the forklift truck down. I was like, that's just insane. But as a company owner or a director, is it one of the things that you could have missed and then just been not told about forever?
Oh, definitely, because people don't naturally want to say to their boss. No. Like, they'll say it behind your back all day long, but they don't want to say to the boss the truth of the matter. And guess what? Really, like, people, sometimes people don't get asked if they're not on the right rung of the ladder. But, you know, sometimes, like, your best ideas come from interesting places if you actually listen. And that's the flappy ear thing, isn't it? If they're just going around but not really using them.
It is. It's absolutely hilarious, especially when, and I've had people come out with complete cop-outs like, oh, we have huddle meetings and we have one-to-one appraisals every 3 months. And I'm like, but he's still not going to tell you that there, because that's noted and minuted. He's going to tell you the truth over a cup of tea around the corner. If it's completely off the cuff and he hasn't got any comeback to it, he'll tell you. But if it's minuted and noted, they're not saying anything.
And if
it's not having it under his name,
there's not going to be repercussions.
Exactly. And you need to have that level of relationship, because that's where where it is culture. It's about open honesty and having a direct route to the source, instead of having to go through your hierarchies to get anything done. Just go straight to the source. So the forklift truck thing, if procurement are buying forklift trucks, the procurement need to be able to go to the operators and say, what do we actually need?
In procurement, you're probably not very experienced with forklift trucks.
But it's can you imagine if there's a forklift truck operator that worked in procurement, would the issue ever happened in the first place?
No.
Maybe not. Why? Because they sit there and they work there day in, day out, and they all know each other, and they would easily have a conversation about what width the forklift truck needed to be to get through that certain part of the warehouse, and what the ground clearance is, because it goes down like this and then back up.
Yeah,
Like,
mad, isn't it? And it's funny because like we've touched on it like a couple of times, haven't we? That, you know, speak to people across all levels of your company. And obviously, you know, the large companies out there aren't going to be able to go and speak to all their new recruits. They might occasionally, if they're in gone to one particular site, they might be able to have a bit of a chat with a few people there. Those new people are going to get masses from that conversation. They're going to feel like, wow, he took the time to talk to me, she took the time to talk to me. That's great. But obviously it's not going to be very frequent. But if you can instill in your managers that they need to just take the time, then it's good, isn't it? And like we do it a lot, where you'll be, you know, you can be quite busy and suddenly, you know, everyone's having a cup of tea and like someone will just start having a moan about something, home life, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, it can be work, whatever, and we'll have a chat. It goes off on its little tangent, everyone has a little chinwag for 10 minutes, and then we all get stuck back in harder than we did before, because we're all happy, we've had a moan, and stuff's not then going on in the back of your mind. Whereas I think it's difficult for new managers particularly to do that, because they feel like it's all got to be on the go all the time. But actually that 10 minutes of downtime, and invariably somebody's still working, it's not, you know, you're not like, let's sit down and have a chat about this. You just kind of, it's natural, and then everyone works away, and then they think you're human. That's very beneficial in management.
the best practice for corporates and companies and managers is to be seen as human. And if you remember all the different managers that you've ever worked for, just go back in your mind and remember them all, and you will generally make the assumption as to whether or not they're approachable. And if they're approachable, your work life is so much easier. If they're unapproachable and they're machine, corporate, we need this, there, go. And if they're doing that to you while you're at work, you don't approach them in a personal way anyway. And you never really give them the truth. You never really open up and give them the honesty. And that's where it's like, it's really key to be able to open the communication and actually understand and know what people are going through. I've got sunlight issues. This is interesting.
It's that time of day.
We'll do it this way.
We'll wrap up now anyway, but I just wanted to say thank you, because it's been really beneficial. And the take home for people, from my point of view, is to speak to people on all levels and to be human. Treat people how you want to. And what would you like to add on that?
Really understand that everybody's individual, and everybody's self-care is going to be different. So if we're understanding that everybody is individual and they've all got their own level of mental health, of home and finances and well-being and skills, just having that approach of actually talking to people, really understanding the individuals that work for you. 100%.
Also interesting that you say that about everyone's individual, because also everybody's different on a day-to-day basis in a way. You've got the basics there, but one day they might just have some giant bill that's come through to stress them out. Someone in their family might be really ill, you know. Just people have life that gets in the way of work, because life is the priority.
100%. I mean, if you're going to go and do any decent recognition, you want to do the recognition according to the individual. There's no point giving everyone a blanket, here's a Rolex watch, when some people don't even wear watches. It's like, what's the point of having a blanket Rolex watch?
Say no.
I would have a Rolex watch, I'd put it back in the drawer and I'd never use it ever again. If someone give me a grand worth of a tent, I'd be very happy with it.
It's worth noting, Alisha wants a tent. You get it'd be a good tent, wouldn't it?
It's got to be a good tent, definitely.
Yeah. Not that you allowed many people in it right now, but soon you will.
No, Just me and my lonesome in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, now you're talking. Anyway, thanks so much,
Definitely.
Alisha. That's been brilliant. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Bye.